and it was about an accountant giving advice on state-based taxation issues and whether that accountant was legally permitted to do so. Now, some accountants are astounded when I talk about this. First of all, in providing legal services, basically throughout Australia, you are banned from doing so. Indeed, it is a criminal offence if you do so under various pieces of state-based legislation. And they are referred to as the Uniform Legal Acts, and you'll find the same in New South Wales and Victoria and the other states, where basically it says you cannot, if you're not a lawyer, you cannot provide legal services for a fee. And if you do, you will be fined large amounts of money, and indeed you might go to jail for 2 years. It's serious. So how is it that we tax agents can give advice on law, the Income Tax Assessment Act, the GST law, the superannuation law? Well, there is a carve-out at the federal level for tax agents. So tax agents are permitted to provide legal services, and indeed that's how most of us make our living. Now, what's this? What is a tax agent service? So a tax agent service is any service that relates to obligations or entitlements of an entity that arise or could arise under a taxation law. Now, the big issue is, what is a taxation law? A taxation law under the Taxation Services Act is an act of which the Commissioner has the general administration. That's the chappie there. His name is Chris Jordan. He's the Commissioner of Taxation. And so if he, the Federal Commissioner of Taxation, has the general administration of a piece of law, then we tax agents can provide advice on those things. You will note that Chris Jordan, the Federal Commissioner of Taxation, has no responsibility in relation to state-based tax laws. Therefore, people who are not lawyers, who provide legal services, whatever that means, legal services in relation to state-based taxation law, are committing a criminal offence. Be afraid. Now, what does all that mean? The problem with this is that if you go out to Joe or Josephine out on the street and you say, look, I need to get some advice on whether land tax is payable on this, or, stamp duty is payable on this, or whether I have to pay payroll tax, Joe or Josephine will tell you, well, go and see your accountant. That's what the vast majority of people will say. So there is an expectation out there in society that accountants actually provide this type of advice. And the fact that it's a state-based legislation doesn't mean two hoots to the Joes and Josephines of the world. So that's the problem. And of course, if you, as an accountant, your client walks in the door and says, tell me whether I'm going to pay payroll tax on this particular point, and you say, I'm sorry, I can't, then that client might say, oh, okay, well, I'll go to the accountant over the road and he will. And that's the problem, is you will lose money and clients over the point, because the general expectation of the population is that accountants do provide this advice. Now, what goes also along with that is the question of, does your professional indemnity insurance cover you for this? And I would say, strictly, the answer is going to be no, because insurance will not provide you with cover for illegal acts as a general statement.